Hello and welcome to News Now. Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has sacked the country's Inspector General of Police, Sulaiman Abba. Now, according to a statement released by his spokesperson, Reuben Abati, the sack is with immediate effect. No reason was given for the sack. Deputy Inspector General of Police Solomon Arase has been appointed to replace Abba. Now, Abba took over from MD Abubakar as IG of Police in August 2014. The sack of the head of the Nigerian police comes just a day after the American ambassador to Nigeria paid him and senior officers of the force a courtesy visit at the police headquarters in Abuja to commend them over their conduct during the general elections. Ambassador James Entwistle praised Sulaiman Abba and his men for maintaining a professional conduct during the elections. Take a listen to what the ambassador and the now former IGP said at that meeting.
The elections here were a very important development, not only for Nigeria, but I firmly believe in the development of democracy across Africa. I think in the next year and a half, there's something like 12 or 15 elections in various places across Africa. And I think your example of a credible process with a good transition between winner and loser and all of these things, I think it is a very strong model for democracy across Africa. But of course, what everyone was the most worried about was that there would be very high levels of violence related to the elections. And of course there was some, and even one death, one incident is one too many. But I think one of the striking lessons from this election is that the level of violence was dramatically less than 4 years ago, and it was dramatically less than many people feared it would be this time. I believe there are a number of reasons for that. I think one of the reasons is good messaging by Nigerian civil society and others who introduced the idea that if you're a political leader and you send your people in the streets to commit violence, society will hold you responsible for their actions. I think that sense of introducing accountability made a big difference. I think media campaigns and so on. But the main reason and what I wanted to come over and commend you for this afternoon was the superb work of the Nigerian security forces led by the Nigerian police force. You had a staggering task. As the IGP and I discussed many times before the election, if you took the number of members of the police force and you took the number of polling units around the country and divided one into the other, it was clear that the police force was going to be stretched very, very thin, and that therefore the solution would be coordination and collaboration with other security agencies and so on to make sure that the job got done. And to my mind, by and large, the job got done very well across the country.
What you are recognizing, I must say, is the efforts of all police officers, not only those that you are seeing before you this afternoon, who were in the comfort of their offices when the elections were going on, but it is the result of the activities of officers that were in the field. I want to give credit to our performance, not only to the leadership, but also to the officers out there, particularly those that were at the polling units and those that were involved in the escort of INEC officials and the materials, which gave us the credible election that we had in Nigeria. Your Excellency, what we did was a deliberate effort. As far back as 2013, we began planning on how best we can have a secured and credible election in Nigeria. And as far back as August last year, when I became the Inspector General of Police, myself and the management team decided that we should begin the implementation of the strategies without any further delay. One of the most important aspects of the strategy was to make sure that the officers understand their responsibilities, their roles in the elections, but in particular, Your Excellency, what brought us to where we are now was the clear directive to all officers involved in the election to be civil in their performances, to be non-partisan, and to also be impartial.
Former Inspector General of Police. Now, that was just yesterday, and I'm very sure he never had an inkling that he wouldn't be Inspector General of Police today because he's been sacked by the president. Now, some civil society groups have led protesters in a march against the xenophobic attacks going on in South Africa. The march took place in the Nigerian capital of Abuja. The marchers took their protest to the South African High Commission in the capital city, where they presented a letter to the High Commissioner demanding the South African government stops the violence.
All your concerns to our government in South Africa. But all the same, we would like to say your concerns, your pain is our own pain. We have time-tested relations with Nigerians. Yes, of course, a lot of problems are happening on the ground. But we say beyond this, let us remain friends. We are one people.
Well, the protesters also took their demonstration to South African companies based in Nigeria. They demonstrated right in front of mobile telecoms company MTN and cable TV service provider MultiChoice. Now, staff of both companies came out to receive and address the protesters. Here is what transpired during that protest.
Perhaps they have forgotten so quickly that South Africans also live in Nigeria and also have huge investments like MTN. Ironically, no Nigerian has attacked MTN, DSTV, ShopRite, and many more businesses that are owned by South African companies. One therefore wonders the justification for the xenophobic attacks against Nigerians and other foreigners who live and do business in South Africa.
Now, message. MTN will not get anything against you now. We come make we send message where we go carry go meet una people. We na Nigerians will be. We not happy with waiting and they do our fellow Nigerians for South Africa. Nobody come here to even scratch paint for MTN. From here, we dey go ShopRite. From ShopRite to DSTV. From DSTV to any other investment where South Africans get. We no go destroy anything. But here, monkey hand will resemble human being hand. Make una send message to una people. If they no do wetin they supposed do. Person wey no follow chop okpa go follow drink water. Now when we don't give una message, we go like make we hear from the people where we carry message reach their domot, whether the message enter or be no enter.
This has been condemned by MultiChoice Africa Management and MultiChoice Nigeria as an organization here residents in Nigeria. Is not something that we are in support. A public appeal has equally been made.
We condemn what is going on in South Africa as MTN Nigeria. We condemn it because it is affecting Nigerians. We also condemn it because it is affecting other human beings. Nobody will support any other person being killed or any other person's effort being destroyed. Second is, I want to thank you for the peaceful approach you have taken to this. We appreciate the fact that you are showing your concern in a very Nigerian, matured way, coming out to say how you feel without behaving like the people we are condemning.
Now, President of Ivory Coast, Alassane Ouattara, has described the recently concluded presidential election in Nigeria as a lesson for the African continent. Ouattara, who met with Nigeria's President-elect Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja on Monday described the election as peaceful, saying that Nigeria was an important country which cannot be ignored on the continent of Africa. The Ivorian president pledged to mutually work with the incoming government. Nigeria's president-elect Muhammadu Buhari said Ouattara's visit was to essentially congratulate President Goodluck Jonathan, who demonstrated the spirit of a good statesman in conceding defeat, saying his action has brought peace to Nigeria. Buhari scored an historical win over Nigeria's incumbent president Goodluck Jonathan of the ruling People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the March 28 presidential election. He beat Jonathan by 15.4 million votes to 12.9 million votes. Now, the Ivory Coast president is not the only one that has been commending President Goodluck Jonathan for conceding defeat. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden is the latest person to commend the president, urging him to continue to play his role as a global leader. Biden commended the president for his leadership role at the recent elections held in Nigeria, which has been described by a majority as peaceful. A statement from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja also congratulated the president-elect Muhammadu Buhari on his victory. President Jonathan has received widespread praise over his decision to concede defeat at the country's tightly contested presidential elections. Now, just days before a supplementary governorship election is set to hold in Imo State, southeast Nigeria, the All Progressives Congress, APC, has asked the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Tahiru Jega, to replace electoral officials with questionable characters. Chairman of the party, John Odiji Oyegun, wrote to Professor Jega calling for the replacement of some electoral officials, saying the APC may not take part in the election if the commission retains the current INEC team in the state. He accused the officers of being compromised. In a letter sent to Jega Monday, Oyegun said the resident electoral commissioner in Imo State was desperate to manipulate the election by attempting to order new vote in areas where results had already been declared, all in an effort to help the People's Democratic Party, PDP, win. The election on April 11 was declared inconclusive by the returning officer Ibida Kwobe because the margin, which is of course 79,529 between the front-runner APC's Rochas Okorocha and his contender Emeka Ihedioha of the People's Democratic Party, was less than the number of registered voters, which is 144,715. Now, in wards where elections, of course, did not hold or were cancelled. Okorocha had said the supplementary poll was unnecessary as INEC should have considered the number of permanent voter card holders in the affected areas instead of registered voters. Oyegun said INEC officials also connived with the military in NNPC local government area and some other areas to cut away election materials with which fictitious results were later written and admitted. A 16-year-old Aziz Ganiu has been arraigned before an Apapa magistrate court in Lagos for allegedly defiling a 2-year-old girl. The prosecutor, Soji Ojaokomo, told the court that the accused committed the offense on April 16th at the Jorabadia area of the city. Ojaokomo said the accused called the girl and lured her into an uncompleted building and defiled her while her mother went to get food for her. He said the offense contravened the provisions of Section 137 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State 2011. The accused, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge. The magistrate granted him bail in the sum of 50,000 naira with 2 sureties and like sum and adjourned the case to May the 5th for receipt of legal advice. We'll take a short break here. When we come back, more stories coming your way. Don't go away. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on TV360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Nigeria is now beginning to really feel the crushing effect of depleted government revenue as a result of the low oil prices globally. The Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, distributed just 435.06 billion naira for the month of March to the three tiers of government. This figure is 86.991 billion less than the 522.052 billion that was distributed for the month of February. Addressing journalists after the meeting, Minister of State for Finance Bashir Yuguda said the reduction in the distributable amount for the month was owing to what he calls the continued shutdown and shut-in of various trunks and pipelines at various terminals, which he said has continued to impact negatively on crude oil revenues.
For distribution in the three tiers of government is 314 billion 516. If we take into consideration the cost for collections, the figure goes to 307 billion 446, which will be distributed among the three tiers of government: the federal government, the state government, and of course the local governments, and also the derivation of 13%, which is the 307 billion to be distributed along this format. Then we take into consideration for the month of April, the value-added tax is 71.197 billion. We take into the issue of the cost of collection 4% to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So the net available for distribution will be 68 billion 349. So the total distributable income for the month, including the exchange gain, including the refund from NNPC to the federal government of Nigeria, is 435 billion and 62 million. That is the amount available for distribution for the month of April. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, the issue of the $1.48 billion that President Jonathan ordered the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to refund to the Federation account following the audit of the NNPC account by auditing firm PricewaterhouseCoopers came up during the FAC meeting. The committee set up a panel to investigate why the NNPC is yet to comply with the presidential directive. Chairman of the Forum of Finance Commissioner Timothy Oda spoke to journalists about it and other issues.
We don't have much. Usually when there is much money, we waste much time. This time, when there is small amount of money, we spend a small amount of time. So, in fact, you can see this time was very, very successful in terms of its conduct. But as far as finance is concerned, it's abysmally deplorable.
How has the government and the change of government affected the FAC?
Like I said, it has not come into play. Not much was discussed. In fact, references were not made to the fact. I think that one will be coming up in the next FAC, knowing that next FAC will be the last. This one is the penultimate FAC. In fact, we are trying to put our houses in order, and that's why we need a lot of money in order to improve the situation, do clearances, and sanitize the respective states in terms of ensuring that states meet up their obligations with respect to what is being owed contractors. And you are aware that some states, workers have not even been paid for some months. With what we have received today, we don't want state governments to go having a backlog of salaries owed workers and so on and so forth. That is what we don't want. And we are making a clarion call so that effort will be made in order to ensure that the presidential directive on the $1.4 billion coming from the audit of an NNPC or whatever, it should be made available so that we have to clear with that. It will help in that accentuate situation.
How soon do you think that money will be available?
Of course, you have said, and I believe that the coming FAC is the last FAC. So as soon as it should come, as soon as the last FAC is to come. I think you understand. If it doesn't come by then, you know it's belated. So we don't want it to escape that period.
Already, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
You did promise the fact before now that if indeed that money was not available, we're not going to approve the account. How come you are still approving the account when the money has not been made available?
Thank you. We said if effort is not made in order to ensure it is available. But effort was made, but it is not available. Today, there was a committee constituted for the purpose of ensuring that we meet with the NNPC people so that everything will be ironed out. In fact, from what they said, it is not like they are running away. I think one technical hitch or the other. So we want to believe, and we know that Mr. President is a good man. There's no need making reference to him any longer because he had already given his directive. And we also read the lips of the Minister of, the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, directing that he should be paid. We don't know exactly what's happening. It's a problem that we can attribute to the in-house within the NNPC. But like the minister said, we believe His Excellency the President will make a much more resounding directive so that they will comply. We need it. The federal government needs it. The state governments need it. Local governments need it. And the individuals need it because if it is not released, and with this type of abysmal funding we've seen, it will be very, very terrible. In fact, this is a sound warning. It is no more issue of alert to states. We need to beef up. You've already, when you went to CNN this morning, you discovered that foreign reserve is getting depleted. For example, falling from 2.9 to 2.8. And we've seen that even dollar had gone off, adding 4 more digits. It is a very difficult period. Everybody, not only governments, but individuals, our respective family budgets, we need to tighten the belt. Austerity has truly started, and it's not Nigeria alone.
Well, Brent crude oil steadied around $63 a barrel on Tuesday. Oil has climbed around 15% this month due to concerns over the conflict in Yemen, Saudi Arabia's southern neighbor. Now, Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, boosted production to the highest in 3 decades in March, with a surge equal to half the daily output of the Bakken Formation in North Dakota. Brent hit a 2015 high of almost $65 a barrel on April 16th, up more than 40% from a January low just above $45. Now, prices have also been supported by speculation over falling U.S. output after data showing the number of U.S. exploration and production oil rigs fell to their lowest since 2010. Nigeria's Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala says oil prices are likely to stay low for a long time after falling more than 40% in the past year. The country had warned that oil prices currently at around $60 a barrel probably won't recover to the 2011-2013 level of more than $100 a barrel. An Egyptian court has sentenced former President Mohamed Morsi to 20 years in prison on Tuesday in connection with the deaths of protesters during demonstrations against his rule in 2012. Morsi also faces charges in 2 other trials. Morsi supporters attacked opposition protesters outside the presidential palace in December 2012, sparking clashes that killed at least 10 people. The army deposed Morsi in July 2013 following mass street protests against his rule. Since then, the authorities have banned his Muslim Brotherhood movement and arrested thousands of his supporters. Morsi and 14 other Brotherhood figures escaped a more serious charge of inciting the killing of protesters, which could have carried a death sentence. Most of the other defendants were also given 20-year prison sentences. Now, Morsi's legal teams have said they will appeal. Morsi stood accused of inciting supporters to kill a journalist and opposition protesters in clashes outside the presidential palace in late 2012. Morsi was Egypt's first freely elected president, but protests began building less than a year into his rule when he issued a decree granting himself far-reaching powers. Italian police have arrested the captain and crew member of a migrant boat that capsized over the weekend off Libya as the UN put the death toll at 800. According to officials, the Tunisian captain and a Syrian crew member of the boat were taken from a group of 27 Haggard survivors who arrived in the Sicilian port of Catania on Monday evening. Assistant Prosecutor Rocco Ligori said the two men were charged with illegal immigration and the captain was charged with reckless multiple homicide in relation to the sinking, according to the Associated Press. Now, the arrest came as the United Nations Refugee Agency confirmed that 800 migrants died in what has been described as the worst Mediterranean boat disaster in recent times. Representatives from the UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration, IOM, said they had interviewed the majority of 27 survivors who described the moment the trawler carrying them capsized after a Portuguese merchant ship approached the vessel, causing a stampede. To football now, the Nigerian Football Federation has re-engaged Stephen Keshi as the head coach of the Super Eagles. At a contract signing ceremony in Abuja, the acting president of the federation, Seyi Akinwumi, said that the federation remains committed to the development of football in Nigeria. Keshi, who tutored the Eagles to a Nations Cup victory in 2013, however, appealed to Nigerians to support the national team in order to achieve greater success. Stephen Keshi had earlier in the month actually appealed to Nigerian football fans to forgive the technical crew and the team for failing to qualify for the 2015 Nations Cup. Now he has been managing the Nigerian national team since 2011. Liverpool midfielder Jordan Henderson is close to agreeing a new £100,000 a week 5-year deal with the club. The former Sunderland player is expected to sign the new contract this week, ending months of talks. The England international joined Liverpool from the Black Cats in 2011 in a deal worth around £20 million. With Steven Gerrard leaving at the end of the season for Major League Soccer side LA Galaxy, the 24-year-old is among the favourite for the captaincy. Vice-captain Henderson, whose current contract expires at the end of next season, has scored 7 times in 55 games for the club and, of course, his country. Well, that's it on News Now. We thank you very much for watching. We're back again tomorrow. See you then.